the UK is not very entrepreneurial. As a country, I feel like you're not as supported. We've got a very crabs in a bucket mentality. And this lady, I'd never heard of her before, but she's a $100 million company. Her name's Krissy Cela. I hope I pronounced that right. She recently went on a podcast and she gave her opinion. I'm going to just play it for you guys. You guys tell me what you think.
To the US as an entrepreneur was one of the best decisions I ever made, purely on the basis that as much as I love the UK, there is a little bit of the poppy syndrome. And I do feel like everyone's really scared to talk about their success. And oftentimes I don't really feel like it's celebrated like it should be. In the US, it's a very different mentality and it's more celebrated. It's like, oh, you've come this far. That's incredible. Let me be part of your team. Let me help you. I think moving to the...
So I lived in the States for 5 years and I 100% agree with what she's saying. Let's look at some of these comments as well. I feel the US is great if things are good, but it's terrible if things are bad, bigger extremes. Amen. I 100% agree with you, Krissy. I moved from the UK to Dubai and here success is praised, promoted and accepted. You did a great job. I'm actually in Dubai right now. I have to agree with Coach Nazia. If you think the UK is bad, come to Europe. Everything is looked through the prism of risk and everyone is saying, nah, this will fail all the time. Oh my days. It might just be a European thing. Because yeah, everyone's just got this negative belief, this kind of scared mentality that they can't make it. The US is an amazing country overall. It usually takes a foreigner to notice it, sadly. Yeah, so anyway, I'm not here to read the comments. I'm here to give my opinion and get you guys' reaction to this. Anyone that, I think, I always put it down to a bit more of like a British mentality, crabs in a bucket mentality. I think in England, yeah, people want you to be successful, but they don't support you to be successful until you're actually successful. Until you actually truly crack it. They don't want you to get there, but when you do crack it, they'll be glad you're there. I think that we generally don't push for as much entrepreneurship. I think people are just very comfortable having like a standard life. And that's another thing. And there's nothing wrong with having a standard life. That is great for some people. You know, you get your 1 or 2 holidays a year. You know, you live for the weekend. Friday night at the pub, Saturday night at the pub, my Sunday roast. Like, it's almost a bit alien. It's a bit foreign to say, I want to build a multi-million-pound company, or I want to be a billionaire, or I want to have, you know, I want to have 5 cars and 5 houses. It's alien to a lot of people to say that in England. It's looked down upon. It's almost looked down upon or frowned upon. That's how I feel. That's kind of how I've always felt. I think when you have like really extreme beliefs and you really want to achieve these really, really large things, it's quite easy to get put down in the UK. Generally speaking, obviously I have to generalize to have this discourse. I think that there's a lot of pessimism when it comes to people that have these larger goals and they want to achieve these big things. There's a lot of, oh, you can't do that, or you won't achieve that, or, you know, is that a good idea? Whereas in the US, and I'm not saying that the US is perfect. It's definitely not perfect. I've lived there. I can tell you it's not perfect. But in the US, there is a bigger push to try and be successful. And I think it comes down to a few things. What America is birthed on is very different to what the UK is birthed on. America is a lot about like freedom, which is kind of ironic when you think about slavery, but freedom, the American dream, you know, you can do whatever you want, you can build whatever you want. And I think a lot of that also comes down to they have less government overreach. They do, they have a lot of it, but they have less government overreach compared to the UK, where the UK is a bit more hands-on. I wouldn't call it a nanny state, but the UK is probably heading that way. So the UK is a bit more, the government has a bit more control on us in the UK versus in the US, a lot of people are not anti-government, but it's a bit more of a, I believe it's a bit more of a free society in that sense. And freedom is so, so important to them. Whereas over here, I think everyone's just happy to get in line. Everyone's just happy to get in line. Get your food, go to the servery. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. So I fully agree with her. And that's why a lot of people do leave the UK. That's why the UK this year is set to lose about 17,000 millionaires are leaving the UK. So that's 17,000 smart, amazing minds. Maybe 70,000 evil people as well, but 17,000 amazing minds who have found ways to make millions of pounds are leaving the country at extraordinary rates. And there's a reason for that. It's not just happening for no reason. So we have to think about why that's happening and why that's taking place. And a big part of it is just like, country's not where it needs to be right now. It's not where it needs to be right now, man. And it's a shame. Anyway, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave your comments. What do you think about in regards to, entrepreneurship in the UK and how much it's pushed versus how much it isn't pushed? And is the UK anti-entrepreneurship? Or is the UK anti-entrepreneurial? Because that's my belief. That's my personal opinion.